Hello there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Jedi Nights, Episode 1. I'm your moderator, Christian Buckley. My Chewbacca for this journey is one Mr. Mike Connors.
My Han Solo.
Ooh,
Right here.
Han Solo, okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that compliment any day.
L3 to Lando.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
If you're not familiar, Excelsior was a podcast here on JoyClicks where myself, rest in peace, Jack Martin, sat through every MCU film, sat through a discussion with Pat Maroney, who will be joining us, but is off on assignment for Episode 1, sadly, to review the MCU leading up to Avengers Endgame. We had a blast doing that.
Totally.
You sat in for one of those.
I think I did, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the one right before Endgame.
It was, yeah. So
Yeah.
you were like right at the peak hype.
I know.
So I'm a pretty passionate Star Wars guy. You, I think, are more in love with Star Wars than I am.
Passionate? Definitely.
Okay.
Super fan? Absolutely.
Okay, that's the right distinction I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you know more about Star Wars than I do.
I feel like you'll be surprised at how much I don't know about Star Wars because there's so much
There is so much, yeah.
about Star Wars.
There's so much.
And I'm not old enough to have seen everything and read everything.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't love it.
Exactly. We're all just having a good time here.
Totally.
So what we're going to do with Jedi Nights, I'm going to post a schedule. Every week we're going to be reviewing the Skywalker Saga films. I won't get too deep into this, because we have a lot to discuss today.
Yeah.
But every week, Star Wars film going in timeline order.
Okay.
So today is The Phantom Menace, which we'll be reviewing in the second half of the show. Next week, Episode 2, Episode 3, Solo, Rogue One, then Episode 4, 5, taking a little breather because that week, Jedi Fallen Order and Mandalorian start.
All right, so we're taking a second for ourselves.
Taking a detour.
Yeah.
Gonna have an episode about that.
Okay.
And then when we get back into the film saga, every episode will also have a Mandalorian review. It's gonna be a week behind because of the way we record this, but that's what we're looking at for the next few months.
Can I make a comment here?
Sure.
So I've never watched all the Star Wars movies in chronological order.
Really?
Like the way that they're supposed to be. In air
that's
quotes,
interesting.
Supposed to be.
That's very interesting.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it in this way.
I'm excited to rewatch all of these
Yes.
because it's been a while. So now that all the groundwork is established,
yeah,
I want to hop into Episode 1 of Jedi Nights.
Oh, you got me.
So we're gonna play a game.
Sure.
We're gonna play a game that I'm calling Fire the Cannon.
Love it.
So, like you mentioned, Star Wars obviously has this rich history to pull from. A lot of it, though, now, post-Disney purchase, brushed aside, didn't really happen, legends. So what we're going to do is every week I'm going to have a tweet-sized recap of a piece of Star Wars Legends material.
So under 240 characters.
Yes.
Got it.
Approximately.
All right.
So I'm going to pitch it to you. We're going to have a short discussion. Should we fire this cannon and make it dead and buried
so
as it is now?
Kill it
with fire the cannon.
Okay.
Or we make this cannon.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
What's the first week's?
So the first week is Darth Bane.
All right.
Are you familiar with Darth Bane?
Yes,
Okay.
Of course. But
So here's the pitch. Darth Bane is the sole survivor of the destruction of the Sith at the hands of the Jedi Order during the Jedi-Sith War 1,000 years before the Clone Wars began. The Sith were full of corruption and greed, making them weak. Bane knew this, and after their fall, he implemented the rule of 2, 1 master, 1 apprentice, which lasted until the fall of Palpatine at the hands of Anakin Skywalker. Bane is calculating, plotting, and the first modern-era Sith that we know from the Star Wars films today.
Definitely.
I have a few lists of his canon appearances.
Okay.
Because he is sort of canon.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, he's sort of canon now, but not in the way that people are familiar with Bane.
Yeah, right.
So Bane appeared in the Clone Wars animated series, I believe 2 episodes or 1.
I mean, I haven't watched all of the Clone Wars. To be honest with you.
Okay.
But yeah.
So Bane is a person that exists in this universe now.
Yes.
His backstory, which was fleshed out in some non-canon material, such as few unfinished episodes of the Clone Wars that were inspired by the original version of Bane, which was created in Drew Karpyshyn's Bane trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
where he detailed the Old Republic War of the Jedi and Sith, the fall of the Sith, the rise of the Rule of Two. So what do you think?
So the question is putting Bane back into canon.
Not necessarily putting him back into canon, because he does exist in the canon, but his role, his position as this legend of the Sith who survived this great Jedi Sith war.
Right.
Like, because we don't really have a ton of Old Republic canon yet.
Right. No, that's a big thing.
And I feel like I wanted to start with Bane because of my familiarity with Bane. He's pretty essential to the Sith side of the Old Republic.
Okay. So I think maybe not necessarily taking Darth Bane like beat for beat the way that he was in the EU, but instead taking that concept of there was this Sith who created the Rule of Two and really fleshing that out. One thing that I wanted to see, and something that I still want to see, is a lot of like Old Republic material.
Me too.
Because that is like the bread and butter of Star Wars right there. That's like honestly, I don't care what happens during the Star Wars saga. I'm interested in the history.
Right.
Like let's go.
Yeah.
Like let's see some Darth Bane action in canon.
Okay, so we're saying make this canon.
I'd say make it canon.
Okay, I'm with you on this because
Yeah.
I mean I think Bane is a cool character. I think we will get that Old Republic content that you're craving
Yes.
between one of the like 3 trilogies that are being worked on right now.
I hope so.
The Disney Plus series. I think there's potential for maybe a Darth Bane series where we really get into his arc of the Rule of Two.
Right. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of content you can pull from Darth Bane. So we're making this canon.
I want to see just a quick aside. I want to see what happened with the Sith in the 1,000 years between Darth Bane and Phantom Menace.
There's a lot of gaps.
There's a lot of gaps.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Future Star Wars, though, is fast approaching
Yes.
because the end of what we're familiar with is fast approaching. We've got our first tease at upcoming Star Wars finales beginnings with the Triple Force Friday is what they're calling it this year because we got 3 big boys. We got The Rise of Skywalker, Jedi Fallen Order, and The Mandalorian. So last week, recording this Monday, September 30th, I believe last Thursday, there was a little tease. I know Anthony Carboni was showcasing some stuff on the Star Wars show.
Right.
We got looks at some new merch, cast members from Jedi Fallen Order, The Mandalorian. I saw the video of Pedro Pascal opening up and seeing the action figure of The Mandalorian and freaking out.
I didn't see that.
There's a lot of really fun videos of cast members seeing their action figures for the first time,
That's
and I
crazy.
always love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Also, though, specifically Star Wars Lego.
Okay.
Are you a Star Wars Lego guy?
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm like notoriously bad with Lego sets.
Okay.
So I don't I've never really like bought them except for like as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Huge into the Star Wars Lego games though.
Okay.
Massive.
Well, sadly, no news about that yet.
Well, they're coming out with that.
Yeah, that full-fledged
The whole
Skywalker
Skywalker
saga.
saga. So
Which is
that's
gonna be a
cool.
good one.
That's awesome.
We did get 9 new Lego sets, so I picked one from each Triple Force Friday contender here
Okay.
to just bring up.
Yeah.
New Millennium Falcon, because of course. Kylo Ren's shuttle,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a Mandalorian ATST.
I didn't see that one. So what's new about the Millennium Falcon?
I think the characters they include with it.
Oh, so that's it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I
alright.
feel like every time there's a Star Wars movie that comes out, it's always like, here's the Millennium Falcon for this one. Because it's merchandise.
Yeah, and like on the box there's like a different setting and you're like, haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah.
Don't know where that is.
Yeah. It's risky, though, because, like, Lego notoriously can have some spoiler-filled Lego sets.
Yeah, no, totally. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I haven't like looked too much into it
Mm-hmm.
because I was scared that there was going to be some sort of like scene that was ruined almost.
Because you have to imagine the fine folks at Lego, when they do make these sets, they're not just doing like, oh, what if we did this with these characters? It's like they have some things to draw from.
Yeah.
Potentially from every act of the film, you know? Like, we're
Mhm.
not too sure. It's probably not, like, limited to the first act, because it's like, there's a really cool set piece in the third act. Can make a great toy set out of that. So,
Also, not just with Legos though, just like the regular action figures that
for
Star
sure.
Wars puts out. or Hasbro rather.
Mhm.
I remember for The Force Awakens, they came out with some set piece. It was a speeder that was supposed to be on Jakku, and it had Finn and it had Rey, and it was just like it looked really cool, and there was like this whole thing that went with it on the back, so it looked like it was part of some scene
Mhm.
on Jakku. Never showed up in the movie,
Yeah.
so that happens sometimes too.
Yeah. I think there was also one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's that cutscene of the crew arriving, or no, Rey and Finn hopping in the Millennium Falcon on Starkiller Base to fly to Han. There was a scene there that got cut.
Really?
Yes, and I think there was also a set for that.
Okay, maybe.
So
The only thing that I'm thinking about, there was a deleted scene where Kylo Ren goes into the Millennium Falcon.
okay, yeah, I think it was following that.
Okay.
Because I know there is a lot of cases, even with the Avengers films, where Lego puts out a set where there's either spoilers or some kind of set piece, or like with the case of the Avengers, like, oh, these characters are in a fight together, which is like more uniquely Marvel problem, I think, than a Star Wars one,
Yeah.
where like we know Finn is gonna be in a fight with Rey probably, and we know Rey and Kylo are gonna fight. So like, it's set pieces. I feel like it's more environmental with Star Wars,
Yeah.
but still spoilers, so watch out.
I think it's like when they start putting other characters in there, and you're like, oh, like why is C-3PO like on? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that starts to, the wheels start turning in my head when I see that.
You know what else is getting my wheels turning?
What?
This new trailer that dropped on this preview day for Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh yes.
Did you watch this trailer?
I have watched this trailer.
I think this is the best showcase yet for this game.
For the game.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean like the story, I would say.
Yes. I'll say with the gameplay, I was really interested after E3 with the inspiration from Souls, I'll say, where it's very meticulous saber combat, the parry, which I think is going to be great because earlier this year, Sekiro from Software, they made the perfect sword combat in that game.
Which game are you talking about?
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Oh, okay.
I played that. Very hard game, but they had amazing sword combat. The entire time, I was just telling my friends, I was like, man, if this was a Star Wars game, it would feel amazing. So it's cool to see the inspiration there.
Yeah.
But this trailer showcased a lot more about what to expect from Cal's journey. It was called the trailer was called Cal's Mission. Got a lot of Uncharted vibes, lots of ancient tombs, which I'm excited to explore.
It's like Tomb Raider almost.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this now. Because I wasn't super excited yet, but this one had like the adventure spirit to it that I'm looking for with a game like this for Star Wars. But what about you? Like, you're a pretty big game player, right?
Yes. So, okay, there was a moment in this new trailer
Mhm.
where I don't know the name of this character. It was like the co-pilot of whatever ship they're on.
Was it? I believe her name is Sari. She's the Jedi Knight.
No, not Suri, but
Her co-pilot.
her co-pilot.
Right.
Like the
Yes,
animal.
The
one.
animal guy.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
The monkey man.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, like I think at some point in the trailer it was like, oh, where are we going next? And like all these planets like popped up on whatever holopad that was, and I was like, this is Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Like, are we in the Ebon Hawk right now? Are we about to find all the star maps? Like, let's go. So that got me hyped because it kind of made me feel as if, I don't know, it just that specifically kind of echoed like Knights of the Old Republic for me.
Yeah, and I did hear Respawn draw comparisons to Metroidvanias, and when I think Metroidvanias in 3D, I think Batman Arkham Asylum, which I think pulls off the exploration beautifully, especially in Arkham City.
Yes.
So if they're drawing from that, if they're drawing from Ratchet and Clank also, which is like, go to this planet, do stuff here, come back when you have more gadgets.
Right.
If it's that sort of experience, which is what they've been saying since day one, I'm already in, but this new trailer did get me a lot more excited about, like, I care about this character now, I care about this journey, I want to see it through, because it's a good trailer.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I just think that the open aspect of this game is going to be crucial.
For sure, yeah.
And that's mostly what I'm looking forward to, because why would you, like, I don't know, like a linear and static sort of storyline is just not going to, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. Have you played, you're an Xbox guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't played Uncharted.
I have not played Uncharted. No.
Uncharted, I did get a lot of Uncharted vibes from this. It wasn't just from the tomb, but in the past, the way they've shown climbing, the way they've shown exploration, heavy Uncharted vibes. But what Uncharted nails so well, I think, is we got to go here to go here to go here, and then we find this thing.
Right.
And if even a fraction of that spirit makes its way into this game, which it looks like it is, I think we're in for a good time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of like Force Friday, though, this was one of the things that was shown off. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Out of Fallen Order, The Mandalorian, Rise of Skywalker, what's your highest hype level right now out of all these three?
You know, I feel like if you were to ask me this question a few months ago, it would be different. I would probably have to say The Mandalorian, just because there's more opportunity in the future for like more world building, I guess.
It's the most exciting, I'd say, because it's an unexplored period where I always assumed we got Resistance as the next animated show post Rebels.
Right.
I was always assuming that they were going to give us a Han, Luke, Leia post Return of the Jedi show.
Right.
I still think that's coming.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think they could still do an animated series, you know?
Oh, I think an animated series.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like similar to how Clone Wars fleshed out the Clone Wars era.
Okay.
With the core cast of the Clone Wars era. I think original trilogy era, there's a lot of room for exploring through visual media, like animation, not just comics and books.
Is it weird that I would almost prefer seeing that story told in like a comic book setting? Or maybe even just like a regular like novelization?
I mean, they've danced around that so far, right? That's where like the most we've explored in that era has been through novels.
Yeah.
So far, like new canon era.
There hasn't been much though.
Yeah, like it was Bloodlines.
Bloodlines, yeah. Aftermath.
Right. I know there's a few comic series that are like dabbling in things. Like I remember a couple weeks ago I sent you that panel from Age of Resistance where it explored Kylo Ren and Snoke's relationship a little bit.
That's cool.
Speaking of Kylo Ren comics, though, we have some information about Kylo Ren's backstory.
Pinpoint exactly what you're talking about.
So Charles Soule, who is the writer of Darth Vader, which I've read the first volume of.
I have as well, yeah.
Is writing a new limited comic series called The Rise of Kylo Ren. This has been announced for a while, but it has a date now. It's going to be 4 issues. It starts December 4th. And that's when issue 1 comes out. But Charles Soule was in an interview, I believe within the last week or so, and he was basically like, hey, just so we all are on the same page, yes, I'm writing more about Kylo Ren's origin. It's not going to please everybody. Which
Whatever
I hate
that
he
means.
has to like put that disclaimer on it, because like obviously it's not going to please everybody.
No.
But it's like the age we're in right now with like needing every single thing fleshed out and every single thing explained. The fact that he has to say that is a little disheartening, but I'm excited to read this. I like Kylo Ren a lot. So seeing more about his rise to power in a comic book
Totally.
is exciting to me.
I think if it's anything similar to like even this short amount that we saw recently, like Snoke and Kylo going back to Dagobah, if it's anything like that, it's going to be at least satisfying to know what happened, regardless of like what the circumstances are.
For sure. And if you're not familiar, the panel we're talking about, because I didn't read the full issue, but I did read this panel. I believe it was Age of Resistance, maybe number 1.
I think it's like they do a bunch of different ones with different characters, right? So it was like,
so they went through Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, and now they're in Age of Resistance.
okay.
But I think it's it's also a limited run. But for the panel we saw, it was Snoke and Kylo Ren on Dagobah, where Luke trained. Kylo entered the cave. I don't think the panel we saw showed what he saw in there.
I don't think so. Didn't he see?
You might have seen Luke.
I know he saw Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, he saw Luke, and Luke like reaches out to him and is like, "Hey, like don't
do this.
Like don't try to fight me right now."
Mhm.
And then he does, obviously.
Yeah.
Because dark side. And then he
So-
destroys the cave.
Yeah, I don't think Charles Soule wrote that, but he did get out front with this interview, being like, "Hey, it's gonna happen how it's gonna happen."
Yeah.
Which I appreciate the straightforwardness.
Fair enough.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
I love Kylo Ren, so yeah.
He's a great character. You know who else is a great character?
Who?
You know who's my favorite character in Star Wars?
You're great at segueing, by the way. I just have to
Thank
say.
you. I've had a lot of experience.
Yeah. Who?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh. Hell yeah.
Obi-Wan is my favorite Star Wars character. Here's a fun aside. Take a breather for a sec. When I was a kid, probably from like ages, whenever I first saw Star Wars, I can't remember the first time I saw it because I was just saw it so young.
Same.
But I'll say to about age 4 or 5, favorite character was R2-D2.
How could you go wrong?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then once I started, not even like watching the prequels, but like I always loved Alec Guinness in New Hope. So like I thought Obi-Wan was so cool. This awesome space wizard. Just
He brought a lot of gravitas to the screen for sure.
And I think Ewan McGregor just amplified that for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like he does a great job with that. And we're going to get into that when we talk about the Phantom Menace, but
yes.
Obi-Wan is my favorite Star Wars character. Confidently, I can say that.
I mean, I would I don't think I would agree with that necessarily, but he's definitely
like top 5, right?
Oh, it's like top 2.
Okay.
Like, you know, like
okay, glad we're on the same
up,
page.
He's
then.
up there, like.
So Obi-Wan, when the news came out that Obi-Wan was getting a show, hell yeah.
Yeah,
I can't wait for this. Because there were the rumors that there was a film, got canceled with the avenue of Disney Plus. I feel like a lot of these Star Wars stories are going to be translated to television now. And we finally have a director attached for Obi-Wan.
And it's that one of the women who...
Yes, Deborah Chow,
yeah.
who... She has a stacked IMDb.
I don't know it.
Well, let me tell you.
Well, wait, hold on. She's directing one of the Mandalorian episodes.
2
right?
episodes of The Mandalorian.
2 episodes.
So clearly, whoever's in charge enjoyed her episodes.
I'm sure, yeah.
So
she wouldn't have landed this entire series.
Oh, yeah. Which is presumably going to be 6 to 8 episodes based on the conversations that have been happening by Disney Plus, which 6 to 8 episodes of an Obi-Wan show, 6 to 8 hours with Ewan McGregor again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm good for life.
Like, I should already be signed up for that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So Deborah Chow has a stacked IMDb, like I said. Mandalorian, 2 episodes.
Okay.
She's done episodes of Mr. Robot.
Okay.
Jessica Jones.
Cool.
Better Call Saul. And American Gods.
I've never seen American Gods.
Those are all very highly reviewed TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what episodes she has done for these shows, but I only pulled a few. She has a stacked TV list. I think we're in good hands with the show.
I mean, she's working with Vince Gilligan. I feel like Vince Gilligan knows what's up.
Vince Gilligan, fun fact, worked with Rian Johnson.
Did he now? Oh, it's all cyclical.
Okay, well, not going to go on a Breaking Bad rant, but Rian Johnson directed Ozymandias, which is a fantastic episode.
That's
of Breaking
right.
Bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's like one of the last ones. Right?
One of the final ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also directed The Fly.
Okay. I don't want to get on too much of a rant.
Right.
But I don't like that episode.
Okay. I know some people don't.
Sorry, everyone.
So I think it's safe to say, with the track record, though, I'm excited for Obi-Wan. Obviously, it's going to be a good time to seeing him play with his character again, but I'm excited.
I have a question for you on this very quickly.
What's up?
Obi-Wan, this ObiWan series, do you want to see it more than just one season, or do you want to just like be one and done kind of thing?
I want them to have a clear vision for it, and I want that vision to be unwavering. I want them to make a statement. I don't want them to drag it out. But if they do have stories in mind that could last, say, 3 seasons,
yeah, I'm
fine with that.
I'd have to agree with you on that. I mean, I would prefer to see probably it be like 1 or 2 seasons max. But you know, everything leading up to like an end point from the beginning. Just one overarching vision. I feel like that's a good way to go.
Because he is on Tatooine for 19 years.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of freedom there.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly when in those 19 years the show's taking place, but I would be happy to see them explore any, like, if we're getting gray Obi-Wan.
I want to see him like been there for a while.
Me too. Like 10 years in, I think is where we're gonna land.
That's probably best.
Yeah.
Because then he's probably like he's done some stuff on other planets. Like he's a better Jedi now, and he's not old yet.
I'm curious where they're gonna go with it. There's a lot of speculation that we can have there. But we're going to tie it back in, get more focus on the Empire. Specifically Empire Magazine. I didn't know what else to do with that.
I mean, that was a good one.
Okay. So Empire Magazine recently showcased a few of their upcoming pages for their new issue, October 3rd, all about Rise of Skywalker. Got some new insight for a lot of different content from Rise of Skywalker. New images of the Knights of Ren.
I saw that.
Which, looking cool.
That's like the biggest hype for me.
Really?
Out of everything that I've seen so far, yes, but continue.
Okay. Well, we can dive into that a little bit. Knights of Ren.
I saw this photo pop up on Twitter before I did
I'll throw it up on the screen. Listeners, you're missing out, but right here you can see it's the Knights of Ren just lined up.
Wait, if I point, will it show up?
That's going to be more work for me. I promise.
All right, just joking. So I saw it pop up on Twitter before I actually did some more research into like the Empire magazine, just whatever they released.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. It looks like it's kind of from that vision that Rey had during The Force Awakens.
It has similar lighting. There's no rain, but it is like a muted blue-gray lighting.
But they look so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's a cool image. So far with the Knights of Ren, I remember like after episode 7, there was all these theories, and I was like, I used to work on a Star Wars channel on YouTube, and one of the things that was like a big video we wanted to do was like breaking down the Knights of Ren, what we know about them. And specifically, after Rogue One, I was like, Vader's castle? Maybe since he's obsessed, that's their base, you know?
So, yeah, they went back to Mustafar.
Yeah. But Knights of Ren, I think, are an interesting addition to this trilogy so far. Because as interesting as a concept as it is, when Kylo Ren's introduced and Snoke is like, you, the leader of the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Like, there's a mystery there. But I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily need something like the Knights of Ren to flesh out Kylo Ren more. I'm interested to see his dynamic with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not holding my breath on them being like this crazy thing, you know?
I don't think they're going to be this crazy thing, mostly because I don't think they can.
Yeah.
They were just completely ignored in the last movie.
Yeah.
So there's like
I mean, even 7 didn't do much with them. Like,
right.
They alluded to it a little bit, but...
Right. I mean, I think the plan in JJ's mind when he wrote 7 was probably to expand upon them in 8, but that didn't happen, as we know. So it would be hard to put them in a central sort of like body in this new movie, because they only have one more movie to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to see like what's up with them. We don't really know anything about them.
We really don't. I know there's an art book. I'm sure you've seen this page before, if like looking into the Knights of Ren, where it details, I don't think it's their names, but it's like their character design and what the weapon is. None of them have lightsabers.
Yeah.
They're all like staves, swords, maces, things like that. It's like strangely archaic.
Yeah.
For this galaxy.
Yeah, but like it doesn't really answer like what their purpose is or like why they exist or.
Yeah. Because I remember there was like, are they like breakaways from the Jedi Temple that Luke had that followed him?
Yeah, I don't know.
I really don't think... I'm not holding my breath is where I'm going to land on the Knights of Ren. If they want to surprise me with something, sure. But I don't need the Knights of Ren to enjoy Episode 9.
I don't need it either, but I would like some more information.
For sure. We also have a quote from J.J. Abrams that I pulled because I thought this is an interesting conversation to have. The full quote from Empire, talking about Episode 8.
Okay.
J.J. Abrams said, "If I had done 8, I would have done things differently, just as Ryan would have done things differently if he did 7. But having worked on television series in the past, I was accustomed to creating stories and characters that then were run by other people. If you're willing to walk away from the thing that you created and you believe it's in trustworthy hands, you have to accept that some of the decisions being made are not going to be the same that you would make. And if you come back, you have to honor what's been done." I know we will get to this when we talk about The Last Jedi. We don't have to get into it now.
No.
We fall on different sides about our enjoyment of that film.
Very true.
I like Episode 7. I think JJ did the best he could have done with Episode 7.
Yeah.
It makes me happy that he's acknowledging the being of episode 8, you know? Because it doesn't sound like he doesn't like that film. I think he probably respects a lot of the choices made by Rian Johnson artistically.
Yeah.
With this series, with these characters. But realizing that he has to step in to wrap it all up and connect it all together, I think I liked the quote. I thought it was like very respectful, and he's treating it in a way that makes me happy.
Right. I think, honestly, I don't see how he would be able to do it any other way.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he were to completely retcon episode 8,
Mm-hmm.
there would be like anarchy in the streets.
I'd be furious.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really like episode 8, but I would also be furious
Yeah.
because it just destroys the continuity of it all.
Right. Like, we did ignore prequels for a while with the new trilogy, but like,
Yeah.
we didn't retcon anything, you know?
No, I mean like that, and you know, like if you're creating a Star Wars movie, specifically the last one in an entire saga,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to listen to what came before you.
Absolutely.
Like there's no way you can just be like, oh, you know what, that movie like doesn't really make any sense in my vision.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about like JJ's vision really.
Yeah.
I mean, partly it is, but like you have to keep in mind the full context of things.
Right. And I think 9 is in an interesting spot because when I left episode 8, a lot of the discussions that I chose to engage with
Mhm.
were talking about episode 9, not about episode 8.
Right.
And I think originally it was Colin Trevorrow who was attached to episode 9.
Yeah.
I'm happy that JJ took over instead,
Mm-hmm.
because I think having him on board is going to do, ideally, nice things for making this trilogy feel more complete, as well as what we've learned about sort of making all 3 trilogies feel complete.
Yes.
Because even with episode 7, I think JJ did not touch on anything to fully feel like this saga is 3 complete arcs, you know?
No, he did not. Yeah.
So in my head now, I feel like episode 9 is going to be like 3 hours long because they have so much to cover.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this too, and like I would have been okay if they took episode 9 and like just split it into 2 parts or something like that. In a way.
Yeah.
In a way. I know like it doesn't make sense, but
Yeah, but I'm with you in the fact that there's a lot of ground to cover that I feel like should be addressed.
mm-hmm.
I don't need explanations for everything because I like that Star Wars does have mystery from time to time.
Yeah.
But specifically with 9, as far as making it all feel like a package, the Skywalker saga, which is like a relatively new way to address these films. I think as long as JJ doesn't like go off and make all these new loose threads, I'm okay with a few. But as long as we don't end with like, was the entire saga a dream? Is the top still spinning?
That would be bad.
Yeah. I don't think we're going that way, but it's worth bringing up.
No, totally. I'm excited to see what he does with it.
Me too. You know who else I'm curious to see their opinions on
I love
the
this.
conclusion
Yeah, what?
of the Skywalker saga?
Yeah.
George Lucas.
Okay.
George Lucas is sad. Or he was sad, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Bob Iger?
Totally.
For the listeners who aren't familiar, Bob Iger is, I believe, still the current CEO of Disney.
Yeah.
He was there for the handshake, selling over the rights to Star Wars.
That infamous photo.
Yeah. I remember that day. And I pulled a few quotes from a recent memoir that he put out as his time as the CEO of Disney, because you imagine he's got to have amazing stories about all the stuff they're doing, all the deals they're making, the palms they're greasing.
Turns out he does have an amazing story.
He does. So these excerpts are taken from the memoir he wrote, and these excerpts have been taken from r/Star Wars leaks. There's a lot to cover here. I'm going to read a few things about his Bob Iger's recounting of events about George Lucas. George agreed to send us 3 copies of his outlines for the sequel trilogy. Alan Horn and I read George's outlines and decided we needed to buy them, though we did make it clear in the purchase agreement that we would not be contractually obligated to adhere to the plot lines he laid out. He reluctantly agreed to be available to consult with us at our request. I promised that we'd be open to his ideas, because of course we would, it's George Lucas, but like the outlines, we would be under no obligation. we've heard stories like this in the past. You
Yeah.
know, we've heard recounts from several people close to Star Wars, even from Mark Hamill, I believe, that he's had conversations with George. A lot of people have had conversations with George. Filoni has had conversations with him. Jon Favreau. A lot of people still consult George Lucas. I'll continue. He thought that our buying the story treatments was a promise that we'd follow them, and he was disappointed that his story was being discarded. I'd been so careful since our first conversation not to mislead him in any way, and I didn't think I had now, but I could have handled it better. I should have prepared him for the meeting with JJ and Michael Arndt and told him about our conversations that we felt it would be better to go in a different direction. I could have talked through this with him and possibly avoided angering him by not surprising him. I think it was, end quote. the straightforwardness of this, I respect.
In what way? Straightforwardness of who?
Bob Iger acknowledging both that the scenario could have turned out better, and honestly the transparency here, because this obviously happened a long time ago, but seeing a Disney executive, Bob Iger, the head of it all, being this upfront about it, being like, hey, could have handled this better.
Yeah, Mr. Mickey Mouse himself.
Yeah. We both probably have opinions on George Lucas that we're going to get to in like 5 minutes.
You're right.
But I do think having him as a consultant, in the case of at least the Filoni shows, the Favreau show, is beneficial, because you have these more ground level directors coming in, getting like talking to the maker, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's George Lucas.
Exactly. So I think he's beneficial in that way, as far as like giving someone a baptism into this approval of creating Star Wars content, like picking at his brain a little bit.
Yeah.
But from what I've read of his outlines that are like have leaked out there, like small things, I think they might have made the right call. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with his original plan.
Could you give me like the briefest of synopsis?
I don't know about this.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So I guess George Lucas had this idea that the Force and the Wills are these like spiritual gods or something that have influence over life in Star Wars, but they live in a microverse, and the sequel trilogy would involve shrinking into this microverse, going on some Ant-Man Endgame style time heist journey through the microverse of existence, which is what the Force is made. Like, I think they made the right call.
Probably, from what you're telling me.
One more quick quote, talking about the post-screening of The Force Awakens. Kathy screened Force Awakens for George. He didn't hide his disappointment. There's nothing new, he said. In each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to him to present new worlds, stories, characters, and tech. In this one, he said, there weren't enough visual or technical leaps forward. He wasn't wrong, but he also wasn't appreciating the pressure we were under to give fans a film that felt quintessentially Star Wars. I feel like we're going to come back to this conversation down the line. I thought it would be timely to bring it up now. But yeah, where do you land on this whole thing? Obviously, it seems like you think they probably made the right call.
I mean, from what you're telling me,
Yeah.
it seems as if they did.
Yes.
George Lucas being upset that they didn't use his story treatments, tough luck, man.
Yeah.
Like you sold Star Wars to Disney. Like, let's be honest. Like,
Yeah.
what'd you expect?
And I mean, also, as the quote said, as you said, as I said, it's George Lucas. If he really wanted to make a sequel trilogy, I'm sure he had to make a few phone calls, budgeting some things at Fox, but he could have made it happen.
Oh yeah,
You know?
he totally could have. I mean, he bankrolled the prequel trilogy like on his own, basically.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why he couldn't have done that again.
Yeah. So I understand the disappointment. I understand not agreeing from his perspective, but like, he does have a right because he was the creator of this entire universe, but like, his words are kind of falling on deaf ears, I feel like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Because he did make this choice, he did sell, and I think we're in a pretty okay spot right now.
Yeah, and I think honestly, Bob Iger, he wasn't trying to be, super duplicitous in his actions, but maybe it would have been a beneficial move for him to just be like, hey George, like honestly, we're not going to use any of these.
Yeah.
Like why did we have to beat around the bush a little
Mhm.
bit? Like he could have just been like, honestly, man, it's not happening.
Yeah. And I'd be fascinated to see his outline.
Yeah.
Like, Disney let him publish that or something.
Something. Yeah.
I'd love to read something from him about what his original, back in like the 70s, what his idea was for this 9-part story.
Yeah.
Fascinated by that.
Totally.
I'd love to see George Lucas take a stab at something else soon. I'd love to see his next project. I'd love to see him get a one-off Star Wars movie. I think
I think that would be, yeah.
I think he's a very creative man. Respect to him. Like, he's earned it.
A legend.
But I think we're in okay hands right now.
I agree. Yes.
And I guess the evidence of this is going to continue in a manner of moments when we talk Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Welcome back. We are now going to talk, discuss, review, and rank Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Where would you like to start with this film? I have a few things written down, but I feel like
If you have things already written down,
okay, I want to
just start us off.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should agree, if you're willing, for these films and our discussion of them, not to compare to what is coming, since we are tackling it from the chronological perspective.
Okay, so we're trying to take each one
Face value.
and then whatever happened before as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like,
Fair.
face value, Episode 1 as a movie.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we're focusing on.
Sure.
It's a weird movie.
Yeah. So super weird.
It's a very weird movie. Strangely racist in some aspects.
Okay. This is the first thing that came up to me.
Because it's one of the first things in the movie.
It is one of the first things in the movie. George Lucas, what were you thinking?
Yeah, come on, man.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a bad look. Trade Federation, taxation, politics.
Watto.
Wow, yeah, Watto. The strangest thing to me about this movie, because there are many, the strangest thing, either the first or second line of the crawl, the taxation of the Trade Federation is blocking trade routes from the diplomatic whatever.
Yeah. Blah 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 blah.
Like, oh my god. Like, the last time I watched this movie, I fell asleep.
Really?
And I started watching this at midnight last night.
Oh.
I made it.
Good job.
But it was rough, man. It was rough.
Yeah. There's just so much going on, like, right from the beginning. There's that scene of that starfighter, right? Like, carrying Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, and they, like, dock in this Trade Federation thing, and immediately it's just like, oh, the trade, and oh, like, we're blockading Naboo, and it's like, what the heck is happening here? Like,
Yeah,
what did we just start watching?
I don't know if it's because I was late, but, like, even with the crawl, I was like, I thought I needed to pause it so I could, like, lay all these like, state of the galaxy out in my head in a way that made sense, that I remembered it.
Right.
Because, like, with the politics in this movie, I don't think that they didn't need to be in here. I just think they're dry.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the politics in this. Because, like, you can do politics and make it thrilling. Game of Thrones does this in a fantasy setting. I'm not, like, trying to draw comparisons to Game of Thrones or anything, because this was 20 years or, like, 15 years before.
Right.
But, like, there's a way to do politics in a way that's not super dry and being like, we are blocking this so you cannot eat, so you have to sign our treaty. And the chancellor is going to have diplomatic powers and supreme rule of every... Like, come on.
It also, like... Yeah, like, they're going through this trade war, essentially.
Yes.
Right.
Which is a cool concept for Star Wars, for space.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't... Like, the gravity of it doesn't actually... Like, you don't feel it as the viewer. Like, okay, so there's a trade war, people are starving. That's something that they talk about a lot
Several
during this
times,
movie.
yeah.
It's like, oh, people are dying, they're starving, you know, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Like, show me that.
Yeah.
Like, where is that? I want to see that happening instead of just, like, Queen Amidala in her palace, like, looking out the window dramatically. Like, my people are starving. You know? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
I mean, that's a classic storytelling thing, you know, show, don't tell.
Well,
Especially-
exactly, but it just
yeah.
doesn't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as far as a filmmaking perspective goes, there's a lot of weird things going on in this thing. we can dive into plot stuff in a second, but like the pacing is so weird. There's a handful of times where they do the little wipe, the classic Star Wars wipe.
Well, yeah, of course.
No, don't have a problem with that. They do the wipe to like a conversation that lasts 3 sentences, and they wipe again. It's like, you didn't need to do that.
No, yeah.
The only reason that we cut to Newt Gunray and the other guy is because we need to advance the plot of this Chancellor Palpatine thing.
Yeah,
Which just could have been done so much better, I thought.
I agree.
And that's kind of like that's the extent of the politics in this movie now. Like, they're going through this whole sub-arc about like the Phantom Menace, Palpatine trying to orchestrate this place where he can get an avenue into Rising, which, again, cool concept. The way I just described it, I think, is more exciting than the way they show it in this movie.
Definitely. There is one thing that I really enjoy about this movie, and it is sort of the fact that they throw the viewer just like in the middle of this conflict. But everything is so foreign, and it feels like so Star Wars to the sound design of whatever ships, like whatever the ships are making, and just the music, just in general. I think it's a beautiful looking movie.
Man, I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, I think the cinematography is amazing.
I like 85% love the way this movie looks.
Yes.
And I think it's shot on film.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if 2 and 3 are on film.
I think it's
also.
the last one.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Because George wanted to push like the digital filmmaking influence, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think there's like a tactfulness to a lot of the CG. And I feel that way about Iron Man 1 also, where like, because they shot on film, because everything feels in this world for the most part.
Right.
Like the ships specifically, I thought all the ships looked great for the ones that I believe it was all CG. Were they still using models for the ships?
Oh no, they were using miniatures. I was about to say that.
Okay.
So like a lot of this stuff is miniatures.
Right.
And that's awesome.
I know with the pod racing, the stadium, they use miniatures for the crowd.
Yeah. But the actual pod race is CG.
Yes. I just respect a lot of the mesh. I think it comes across well.
Mm-hmm.
Even with some of the creatures, Jar Jar, I think while he does look dated as far as CG goes, he still feels like he fits in this world.
You think he looks dated? I think he looks really good.
Well, that's what I mean about like tactful, I think.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look out of place is what I mean.
No.
It does, as far as like the details on him and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it looks a little like you could have done more texture work for 2000 or 99. I think the thing with the CG though, hit or miss on some of the things today, but I do think it all fits and feels congruous, which is something that surprised me.
Right.
And specifically the way, like I said, the ships look, the scale of a lot of these shots, of the establishing shots of all these planets and cities, I thought they all look great.
I think Theed looks the best on Naboo, like the capital city.
Mm-hmm. Looks good.
So cool.
Yeah, I made a note about that. When I wrote down, I was like, the scale in this is cool.
Yeah.
Was when they showed the shot of the palace.
Yeah, like that first establishing shot of Theed.
Even the shot of the Gungan city.
Yeah.
Love that shot.
So cool.
Is it just the introduction to this world? It has like a mysticism to it, which I think is important in Star Wars, and it's used very sparingly here because so much of it is bogged down by the political storyline. One of the things I do appreciate, though, with the Sidious arc, because I guess at this point there are 2 characters.
Yeah. With
the Sidious plot, it's interesting that the way he's presented is, I have pull. Don't worry about it. I got this. This thing we need to happen, I'll make it happen. I like that confidence and that power because I feel like every time I watch this movie, I notice more things because I'm like paying more attention to the politics and like the math of how it all works. So like seeing him being able to get the other Chancellor kicked out, get Palpatine in, I was like, okay, I see what you're going for here now.
Yeah.
It's just still dry. That's where it all comes back to for me.
That's the thing too. You said every time you watch it, you come up, like you notice more things about it. that in a way is a detriment to the movie, because you should be kind of picking up on most of those beats like the first time you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, that's just an indication that it's dry.
Yeah, and I think subtlety is fine, but movie's not subtle. That's the thing.
No, yeah, the whole thing is just
Like, I'd be okay revisiting a thing and missing things. I think that's super fine to have in film. But if your main story plot
right.
is the thing that I'm learning more about every time I watch it, I think that's an issue.
Totally. Yeah, it totally is. You know, interesting about Sidious and Palpatine, notice the first time that either Palpatine or Sidious is shown is as Darth Sidious.
That's cool.
So that's something that I picked up on
That's nice.
this
That's a cool
next
touch.
time. Yeah, so.
Let's talk a few highlights.
Okay.
Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul.
Awesome.
Best parts of this movie for me.
Yeah, totally. Are you talking about the fight?
Just
or
anything
just like
with
anything?
them. Anything with them.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, again, talking about gravitas.
Mm-hmm.
He brings a lot to it. I've always loved Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was like up there for me. If he didn't die, he would probably be one of my favorite Star Wars characters.
Yeah. I mean,
He's still like top 10. I love him.
I don't really like him as much.
Interesting.
I think he's a cool Jedi. But like, I don't know. He just never really did it for me for whatever reason.
Here's why I like Qui-Gon. I think he's interesting because he's sort of a rare case of a Jedi, where he has ambition, but he's kind of like the old professional. You know, he's like he just loves the job so much that he doesn't want to get the white collar position. Like, I respect that about him. I like that he's like, I know I could easily be on the council, but I don't want to tie myself down to that, tie myself don to these rules.
Right.
I have ambition, but it's not the traditional path of a Jedi.
Big rule breaker.
Oh, for sure.
Huge rule breaker. I mean, the whole Anakin thing.
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of moments, too, between him and Natalie Portman that I thought were funny and cute, where she was like, the Queen wouldn't approve of this. And he's like, the Queen's not here.
Oh, right. Yeah,
And it's like, she is, but...
Yeah, no, that's not known to
just
the
keep
audience
rolling
at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of things in here that actually made me laugh, surprisingly.
I think the scene with Watto and Qui-Gon Jinn is really funny when he tries to Jedi mind trick Watto. But he's like, I'm a droid dare. And like that.
Come on, man.
I mean, that's like also racist.
Yeah.
But like, but that's kind of cool because like you see him fail at something.
Yeah.
Like he's not a perfect like Jedi.
Yeah.
And
evident by his death.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But you know, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know,
I will say there's one Jar Jar moment that made me laugh, like, actually.
okay.
And it wasn't because it was like, oh, Jar Jar. It was like, man, I get it. You know, it's the point where I believe they're going back to Naboo, and it's after Anakin's there. I think Padme is working on R2 or something, and Jar Jar just walks into the room. She asks him about himself, and he's like, hey, you know what? Like, I woke up, I was walking around, just stumbled into this thing. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
I laughed at that. I was like, you know what, man? I get it. That happens.
Yeah, and all the times that he steps in poop in this movie,
Yeah, I
there's
didn't
like
care.
more than one time.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, props to him at best. I think that the position he was put in with that character, I will say Jar Jar is iconic. And he did the best he could with what he was given.
Yeah, in one way or another, he's definitely iconic.
Yeah. And, like, industry pushing, you know, like Jar Jar as a character concept was, like, crazy at the time.
It's revolutionary.
Yeah. So.
And I mean, so, like, very well done.
Yeah. I like him at best. I think he did a good, all right job.
Yeah, with what he was given, he
Yeah.
did a good job.
What else would you like? Do you want to talk about Darth Maul a little more?
Oh, yeah, I want to talk about Darth Maul a little bit more. I also don't want to skip over the pod race scene.
We can talk pod race first if you want.
Just because this is probably one of my favorite sequences in all of Star Wars. Period.
I'll say that I never really understood why people love it so much. I like it, but it was never like a standout thing for me, you know?
Okay, interesting.
I think in the film, it's the second best thing. Behind Duel of the Fates.
Okay.
But I do like the pod racing scene. I think it's a cool way to showcase Anakin and show his ability. again, I don't know how this always flew over me every time I've seen this movie. It's been at least 20 times probably in my entire life. Just like knowing that the reason he did it is because he has the Force.
Oh yeah. I mean, they don't really. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really talked about.
I mean, the reason, because the thing is, the reason Qui-Gon had faith in him is because he knew he was off the charts with his midichlorian count and the power of the Force.
Totally.
I was just thinking Qui-Gon was making a bet.
Oh no,
my entire life.
No.
But like again, listening to this dialogue
Yeah.
again, it just came across of like, oh, okay, that makes way more sense now.
A weird thing that I never picked up on as a kid,
Mhm.
but what I picked up on later on in life is now I might be remembering this incorrectly, but he makes that initial bet with Watto, right, for the hyperdrive.
Yes.
But then they make like another bet like right before the race for Anakin.
Right.
And I always remembered it as like he made the bet for Anakin because he believed in Anakin.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh wait, like totally wrong.
Yeah.
Like completely the opposite. So I thought that was just an interesting thing.
Yeah. So the pod racing scene is visually, I think, also very good.
Yeah.
I think the CGE there holds up too because, again, it feels all connected in this world.
Yep.
In a way that feels lived in.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it belongs here. And again, like fun little thing going on. You got Jabba the Hutt. He's doing a thing.
He's like spitting things at gongs.
The two-headed announcers, I had no idea what they were saying.
Oh yeah, don't have to.
And I mean, I think that's another thing with the rest of this movie is like a lot of these characters, like I don't know what they're saying.
No,
I almost had to turn on captions.
I
some of these
did
things.
turn on captions for some.
Did that help?
Honestly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it did. I actually just like captions for most things.
Interesting.
I just like reading.
I do for games.
Okay, weird. I don't do it for games, but I do it for movies because I like to read. Like I don't know, it
Okay.
keeps my attention.
I gotcha.
I don't know. I probably have like ADHD or something like that. But another thing about pod racing, cool Aura Singh cameo.
I'm sorry.
Aura Singh. She's like, I don't know. They bring her up in later movies, but whatever.
Okay.
She like shows up in this.
This is news to me. See,
Yeah.
this is why I'm glad you're on here.
Yeah.
You know more about Star Wars than I do.
Yeah. No. Very cool.
We're gonna have moments like this.
Yes.
I'll be on the lookout for Aura Singh
Yes.
in the future.
Right.
And I guess like a general conversation about Anakin. Fine. You know, like I don't think this kid needed to get his life ruined over it, you know? Like I thought he did fine as far as a child actor goes.
Yeah.
A lot of his things were like just like woo.
Yippee!
Yeah.
That's one thing that I
Now
noticed.
this is pod racing. I love that line.
It's the best. George Lucas must have literally wrote in yippee and then like told these kids to say it like that.
You see that one?
Yeah. Yippee.
Yeah. Exclamation point to that.
Yeah, literally. But I think he was fine too.
Yeah, like if you have a kid that young being in a film, I think that's odds are it's gonna be around this level. You know?
I liked the moments like he's really Jake Lloyd as a kid, I think, had a lot of talent in one-on-one sort of like him with Qui-Gon. You know what I mean? Like those scenes.
His mother too, I thought.
And I was about to say, like him and Shmi, like that's like crazy emotional, very tender, and like you can feel those moments happening.
Yeah, and for this viewing of Phantom Menace with me, I think I didn't respect it more, but I walked away feeling more positive, I guess, than I have in the past, you know?
Right.
And I think it's because I did notice a little more subtlety, which good luck trying to find subtlety in this movie, my opinion. But yeah, I think going into, not getting into details because I know we don't want to talk about this, but like going into where Anakin's arc goes,
Right, yeah.
I appreciate those moments with his mother more now.
Right.
And like seeing the performance that Jake Lloyd gave, I think made it feel real in an actual like mother-son way. Looking up to Qui-Gon, I understand. Like I see more of the dynamics now of like Obi-Wan's reluctance and stuff like that, but it's always been there. It's just like thinking of it now, I can appreciate what they're going for.
Totally. I mean, I think it makes more sense within the context of them all, and it's hard to separate, you know? It is hard, but I think he did a good job setting up the character.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
standout. I wish there was more of him in this movie.
Yeah.
I forgot that he was not in it as much as I thought he did.
He's kind of like stuck on that ship on Tatooine
Yeah.
the entire time.
And I mean, like, fine, like give Qui-Gon a spotlight while he's here, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, I remembered there being way more Obi-Wan in this, but he only has he has a couple lines on the ship, for the majority of it. He has a couple of cool lightsaber moments and the ending.
Yep.
That's pretty much his role.
In a way, though, it does advance him a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it does a good job with that.
Do we know how old he is in this? Not Ewan, but Obi-Wan?
No, I mean probably, but I don't know.
Okay. That's always been a weird thing with me. It's like, because of the significant age gap with Anakin and everybody else
Mhm.
in this one, I always go so is Obi-Wan just like an old Padawan, or like is episode 2 Obi-Wan like younger than I think he is?
Yeah, you got to think he's like really old in the first Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And he's technically a Padawan, right, in this movie?
Mhm.
Like, he's got the braid
Yep.
and stuff like that, so I don't know. I would assume he's probably like 19.
Eesh, okay.
I don't know. Am I like a little...
That feels younger than I thought, but
Really?
like in universe, 19 makes sense,
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
He probably is around there. But I would agree, stand out
Mm-hmm.
in this movie.
I think he nails the tone of a younger Obi-Wan,
Mhm.
and we're going to see him progress and flesh out this character. But I love a lot of his lines. I love a lot of his smarmy little jokes.
I know, yeah. The
Uh,
negotiations were short.
Yeah, that's a real good one.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite moments overall in the whole movie is that moment between him and Qui-Gon. I believe they're on Naboo prepping for the assault, and he was like, "You really think I'm ready? Like, you really think I'm good to be a Jedi Knight?" And I thought that was a nice moment between them, because
Totally.
it shows Obi-Wan admiring Qui-Gon in a way that I feel like is lacking throughout the rest of the film, because they only have so much time together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just appreciated it.
Totally. I mean, I do enjoy the very end of this movie. Like, you could tell Ewan McGregor is like just such a good actor.
Yeah, he's great.
Because Qui-Gon dies, and you could just sense that Obi-Wan's struggling with the dark side at that moment.
Oh yeah,
Totally.
he gets mad.
He gets so mad.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see it in the way that he fights. It's different than previous in the movie.
Yes.
He's much more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his overall just A+ for me.
What do you think of, in this one specifically, the choreography of the lightsaber fighting? Because there is the opinion of people who, not drawing comparisons, but having the conversation because I feel like we should have it, the slower, more deliberate Shakespearean fighting in the originals versus the more acrobatic, tricky, flippy, intense combat in the prequels. I think this one has a nice, they don't go too far with it.
I agree. There's a good balance there.
For sure.
Similar, and I don't want to make comparisons, but it's hard. But similar to The Force Awakens, I felt like that had a good balance between the two as well.
For sure.
But Phantom Menace,
Yeah, I think the choreography is good. I think it's interesting seeing a character like Darth Maul, who is new alien at the time, new lightsaber gimmick, just new. We've never seen someone who looks like him. We've never seen somebody in his position before who's a subordinate to Sidious in a way that he feels expendable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Maul's just interesting, and again, similar to where I found myself surprised at the lack of Ewan McGregor. Going back to this, I was surprised at the presence of Darth Maul. I always feel like he has nothing in this movie to set him up, but he does have moments of they're mostly for intimidation.
Yeah.
But he does have moments of dialogue. He has moments of progressing his arc, not in a way that we've seen since then, but again, just more appreciation for the smaller moments, I guess.
I would honestly disagree with you on that.
Okay.
I would say Darth Maul in this movie is kind of he doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah,
he's just kind of he's kind of just a scary guy.
Yeah,
I don't like he had like one line in the beginning.
Yeah, I think I'm
Like-
more coming from a place where I thought he was just a face and showed up at the end.
Right. Yeah.
Because I always forget the moment of like, and I think we're gonna walk away realizing this movie's just kind of forgetful for a handful of for like outside of the cool 2 set pieces and like a couple moments. I feel like
you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much more I have to say about the Phantom Menace other than I think there are some really heartfelt moments. I think this movie does have heart in a lot of places, but it's just so all over the place that it's bouncing back and forth between I'm reading dialogue and
Yeah.
really like Star Warsy moments that it's just a weird, like I said at the top of it, it's just a weird movie.
It is a weird movie. I think I'm getting the impression that I like it a little bit more than you,
Okay.
to be honest. Just for, our purposes, when we rank these, are we ranking them just based on the quality of the film, or are we also ranking them in terms of like where its place in the entire story as well?
I think a mix of both.
Okay.
Like, if you have Phantom Menace over Episode 3, for instance, just as the closest thing I could draw to, then you could either defend it with being like, I had a good time with this one. I think there's more going on here that I can appreciate as a film over Revenge of the Sith. But I have Revenge of the Sith over Episode 4 because Revenge of the Sith has a cooler story. Like,
Right, yeah, something like that.
It's more up to you. Because
Okay.
we're going to have individual rankings. When Pat gets here, he's going to have his own list. So
Okay.
feel free to bend the rules a little bit with however you want to rank.
All right. Well, I like this movie.
Okay. I don't not like it.
Yeah.
I want to get that out there. I don't
Okay.
think it's a
All right.
I don't think it's a good movie, but I did find myself appreciating a lot more of this time around than I was expecting.
Right. In terms of the nostalgia factor for this movie,
That's another thing, yeah.
Huge time nostalgia factor.
Me too, man.
This is like the movie that I watched when I was homesick from school,
Mm-hmm.
just because I thought Darth Maul looked cool.
Interesting you bring this up because as we're wrapping up, I wanted to get this story out there. As a kid, my cousin, huge Star Wars guy. He was there for a lot of the original things. And he did the right thing. He showed me 4, 5, 6, and he showed me 1, 2, 3.
That's the way to do it.
When I got to Episode 1, again, nostalgia is off the charts. I had a Jar Jar figure. I had C-3PO stuff. I loved Qui-Gon.
I have a Jar Jar figure in my house right now. So.
There's one that's buried somewhere in my backyard.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
Why'd you bury him?
Just felt like doing it one day, and I
Okay.
forgot where I put him.
R.I.P.
So with Darth Maul, I was terrified of Darth Maul
Yeah.
to a point where like it didn't make me feel scared, it just made me feel like weird. I can't describe the feeling well, but it was a feeling unlike anything else.
I mean, he's a scary looking.
yeah,
Yeah.
He looks like the devil.
Totally.
Yeah, like straight up.
I mean, I think in one of the featurettes for the making of The Phantom Menace, like, George Lucas was like, I want him to look like the devil.
Yeah,
Like, straight up.
yeah, and the fact that I loved Qui-Gon and I looked up to him so much, and then he just stabs him in the gut,
Yeah.
and then ObiWan charges in, I was like, I don't want to watch this as a kid. And Darth Maul, fun fact, I was scared of him for at least 10 years after that.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
did not get over my Darth Maul fear until I was like maybe 10. I was terrified of that guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, he is scary looking.
Yeah, and it was early enough in my life where it was like one of those childhood traumas that will stick with you.
Yeah.
There's another one we'll get to down the line that did the same thing for me, but the Darth Maul one was one that I thought I'd bring up.
Yeah. I mean, I would just, like, rewind back to the Duel of the Fates. Like,
I mean, it's a
Basically
great
every week.
great piece of just Star Wars content, you know.
yeah.
The choreography, the visuals, the sound.
How it's mixed in with, like, the battle that's happening in the palace, and then the battle that's happening in space, and then, like, they're fighting. Like,
Yeah.
it's so cool.
It's very good. We're not going to put a review score on this, but we are going to rank it. Pretty boring week because
Yeah.
it's the first one we've watched.
Right, yeah.
Number 1. It's the only time I'll ever say this. Phantom Menace is my number 1.
Phantom Menace is my number 1 pick as well.
Bold choice.
I mean, I had a lot to choose from.
I'm interested to see where we go because I know next week we're doing episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I know some people traditionally say they like Phantom Menace over Attack of the Clones. I feel like that's the public opinion of a lot of people.
You think so?
In my head, I always think I like it more. So I'm interested to see for this rewatch where I fall.
You think you like
Attack of the Clones more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps everything we had to talk about today. It's weird, I'll say this, going back to a movie I'm so familiar with and looking at it from the perspective of what we're doing.
Yes.
Because I feel like there's so many things that I'm just not thinking of or not touching on in ways that, like, it's just a strange thing, you know? Because I think you nailed it with the nostalgia factor of, like, it's Star Wars. Both of us grew up with these movies. And it's weird getting into the idea that this is the end of it.
Right.
End of it. But, like, getting prepared, going through, seeing this journey again one more time. It has an air of something to it that I can't describe.
Honestly, it's kind of melancholic in a way.
Yeah,
I
think that's fair.
Like watching this movie, it's like, wow, like I'm going to see how all of this ends.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that I've watched ever since I can remember.
Yeah, me too.
Literally every. I have a question for you. When was the last time you watched this movie?
Leading up to Force Awakens, myself and my roommate buddy Matt showed our friend Nicole the series. I fell asleep before pod racing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you couldn't tell me like the last time that you saw this movie like start to finish, other than like yesterday.
No, I think it was probably some other time in high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
It's been a long time
It's been a
since
while,
you've
yeah.
seen this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to finish off the prequels.
Same.
So as we wrap up, if you're watching us, if you're seeing our faces, you're on youtube.com/joyclicks, which has a Patreon now. Gotta put that out there. If you want to sponsor this show, if you want to sponsor other podcasts we produce on the channel, there are options for you. Patreon.com/joyclicks. Podcast listeners, if you're listening to this, you're aware we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Nice.
Anchor.fm,
Wow.
and probably a bunch of other podcast services that just automatically get listed.
Cool.
So if you want to listen to us on your phone while you're working out, while you're doing anything, podcasting's the way to go.
Yeah.
If you want to see Mike's face, if you want to see my face, if you want to not see Pat's face, you can watch us on YouTube.
I would prefer that option.
Yeah.
Just because I think we look great up here.
And I promise the set will improve.
Yeah.
It's coming. But Mike, thank you for joining me for this.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
We can only go up from here. Well, maybe not. But
No, we can go up from here.
we're definitely going to hit a higher point.
Yeah.
If people want to follow you on various social medias, if there's other projects you want to promote, feel free.
Okay, well, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Mike P. Connors. It's basically it. I don't ever use that Twitter.
Okay.
But I will start using it again, I
All right.
think. So, yeah, follow me.
Very nice. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at Chris N. Buckley on Twitter and Instagram, as well as here on JoyClicks. Other shows coming, working on things, projects, and all that stuff. But thanks again.
Oh, totally.
This was fun.
It's been
Next week,
blessed.
Attack of the Clones. And until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the force be with you.
General Kenobi.